New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome back. I am Reverend Dr. Sharri Johnston. I am your host for Global Focus today. And our guest today is one of my favorite people on the planet. And this time she's even up above the last 30 people I said that about. Please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Missy Higginbotham. Let me just tell you a little bit about Dr. Missy because she is cool. She's the Director of Education for the Emerson Theological Institute, in addition to teaching for them and developing curricula for Emerson Institute. She has a broad esoteric studies background, which covers New Thought, mysticism, contemplative practices, shamanism, esoteric Christianity, herbal and plant medicines, aromatherapy, vibrational healing, quantum healing, Reiki, Hermetic principles, mythology, and a variety of other spiritual and energy healing practices. In fact, I don't think there are any that she doesn't use unless she doesn't know about them yet. She belongs to the Labyrinth Society and the Sound Healers Association, and she's a labyrinth facilitator. She's a certified color puncture practitioner. I don't even know what that is, so we're going to have to hear about it. And Reiki master. She has taught workshops on vibration and consciousness in Ireland, the Netherlands, Peru, Canada, Spain, and the U.S. Dr. Missy is the author of a book called Voicing the Sound Eternal, Transformational Power of Sound and Consciousness, which I highly recommend, and it is available on Amazon. And it's about sound healing and consciousness. She earned her BA in music from California State University, Fresno, and I thought you just sang because the angels got a hold of you. And an MS in logistics from the United States Air Force Institute of Technology. Now, how's that for a balance between art and science? She received both her doctorate in spiritual studies and her doctorate in religious studies from Emerson Institute and a doctorate of divinity from the American Institute of Holistic Theology. She's an ordained religious science and interfaith minister and a member of the affiliated New Thought Network. She is also an Air Force veteran, and she was an officer who told people what to do, and they did it. In her spare time, she reads, cooks, and knits. She's married to David, who's a hoot, and he loves to travel and makes wonderful coffee to ensure that she makes it through all of her classes and workshops. He also searches for new recipes for her to try, and he's a willing test subject for all of her cooking experience. Again, please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Missy Higginbotham. Thank you for coming back. It is so nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here, Sharri.
I don't, I used a phrase last week for Reverend Dr. Bill that he was a spiritual Renaissance man, but you got him beat 6 ways from Sunday.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
I grew up out in the country, and my mom and dad, they always said education. We were 14 miles from town, and they always said, you don't expect people to entertain you. And so you always had a book. And so we always were asked questions at the dinner table. We had maps on the walls. It was, I guess, education. It was a big thing in our family. And so we always enjoyed learning. It was, we traveled the world through books, and yeah.
Well, I always say it's a wasted day. How to define a wasted day is it's a day when I didn't learn anything.
Mm-hmm. absolutely.
So that's why Tuesdays are never wasted, because every time somebody comes on here, they teach me something. So I'm going to ask you what's new and exciting, so you can teach me something.
Oh, what's new and exciting, like in my life or in
In your life. In your life. What's
Well,
new and exciting in the world of Reverend Missy?
oh gosh, what I love about Emerson is I get to meet so many darn amazing students, and they'll say, "Have you heard about this?" Or can we do this? And of course, I'll either know something about it or I don't know something about it, which means then I get to go find a book or I get to go learn about it, and which is exciting. And about several decades ago, I think it was David and I had gone on a cruise, and we had ended up in Copenhagen. And there was a metaphysical bookstore, and I bought a book by a Danish mystic. Well, it was I think it was called the O Trilogy, or the Trilogy of O. But it was, but I bought it, and then I had a student that was saying, "Oh, there's this guy. I have this book that I'm really interested in, and some teachings by this guy named Lars." I said, and I was there going back, saying, "Oh, Lars Mule." The old trilogy, and I go, "I remember that. I read that." And the person said, "Oh yeah, of course you did." But it was, and so we started. I have several students now that were because the later books by this guy has about the Essenes and about working with the energies of some of the Aramaic words, Ruka de Kucha, Malkuta de Shemaya, having to do with the Holy Spirit, and you're breathing this in. It's called the Holy Spirit breath, and it's and then it got us into the cosmic prayers, which by this guy who's done some Aramaic translation. He's one of the foremost scholars, named Neil Klotz. I forget his middle name, but his last name is Klotz and his first name is Neil. And there's a hyphen somewhere in there. But he went with all in Aramaic. What they talk about is that it's not a literal translation of word for word. It can be a whole phrase. So the word for Holy Spirit can be holy breath, or it could be, or the word for that they've translated avum for our Father could be O Radiant One, or it could be Mother, Birther of the Universe, and so and the word for Malkuta de Shemaya, which is the kingdom of heaven, is within, can also be the light which is within and around you. And so they have this Holy Spirit breath. So you can imagine breathing in the holy breath, breathing in the light which is within and around you. And so they have this, and then he has a process for doing what he calls the divine healing method, using these breaths, and so I decided that I would practice this breathing and seeing, well, what does it feel like in the body? Is there a difference between what we would use with the English or with the sound tones of the Aramaic, and actually breathing it in through the heart space, out the third eye, in through the third eye, and out the heart space. And so I've been practicing that, and it's like, oh, this warmth comes around your heart. And just the thought of is like, ooh, that's nice. And then another thing I've been working on, because you know me, I'm a kind of a contemplative.
Yeah, you're a multitasker, whether you like it or not.
and before I was, I'm working on. I've got out all my recording stuff because I haven't recorded since 2012, and all of a sudden I decided, well, I'll get it out, because I thought I did all those transcendence classes based on the wheel of transcendence, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to take the I ams that I am a be loved. I am the frequency of the divine emanating out and touching all with the energy of, gratitude, appreciation, thanksgiving, and et cetera, with going through grace and authenticity. Wouldn't it be nice to do, to speak it and just have where people could actually listen to it as they're going through the course, or just be able to have maybe a disc where it's just that. And then all of a sudden I started getting this about, because I was working with some Quaker, a Quaker book that I was developing a class about, and they go, let us center down and mind the light. Now, to me, minding the light is like a process that I used to do back in the 90s when I would work on the inner temple, and I would be outside, being outside this inner flame, tending the fire, being a keeper of the flame. But I started doing, let us center down into the light, because I started several years ago, let me step into the flame and become one with the flame. And what would that be like? Because if the flame is the consciousness of the divine, I don't want to separate myself from it. I don't want to, we're still in separation then. It's still duality when it should be unity. So how does one get into unification with the totality of oneself? And so I started doing some new cards that had to do with centering down into the light and breathing the breath and of centering down into the light. God is here. And then breathing that light of inspiration. God is here. And inside me is this deep pool emanating out. God is here, And so I've now written up 12 cards of those, and it's called Into the Light. And
you don't have any idea how much reach your work has. The Be Love cards that I had, and from a class that I took with you, and you told me I could use them for anything I wanted them to. Well, at Christmas time, a very dear friend of mine, a prayer partner for 17 years, made his transition. And I have been asked to officiate at the ceremony celebration of life. And they asked me for prayer cards. So what I did was I took those cards and I found a picture of him that everybody would recognize and love. And I put it on the backs of them and put his dates. And we made cards up, and that we're going to give those out at the service.
Oh, how lovely.
So you're copyright on them, there you get credit for him. But I just thought you might like because I had an extra set. Remember, I asked you if I could give them to him. You said yes. He carried them around in his breast pocket. Never went anywhere without those cards in his breast pocket. So that just made it a little extra special. So you never know what's going to happen with you have such an amazing gift, and I love that you are combining light and breath and spirit, because in every language, spirit and breathe have the same root. In every language, they have the same root because they're the same thing.
Right.
But everything that exists is in a state of vibration.
Yeah.
And so hooking and that's what connects sound and light is vibration, wavelengths. So I'm thrilled that you're doing that. That's going to be so cool.
Well, I like the thought of a breath prayer. It's Paintner's, Christine Valtner Paintner, who's an abbess from Abbey of the Arts and lives in Ireland. And I love her book. She does the 12 Celtic practices, and she does prayer work with the elements, kind of, and teaches kind of along the line, takes the spirituality and then kind of aligns it with St. Francis. And so you can use it. So I love the Celtic stuff because it's so, it takes everything, it doesn't make it it's only this way or that way. It brings the totality of creation, and that it's all God, and by whatever name the divine. It doesn't matter what you call it. And she has what she calls a breath prayer. But the thing is that everything is God. Everything is the divine. Everything is God. Whatever you call the divine, the creator. And when you breathe in and breathe out, you're breathing God, and God is breathing you. And so if you have that concept, and that as you're breathing, that is that you are breathing divine energy, and then the energy is breathing you. And you did it consciously to say, how does this feel if I just breathed it in? And then on that, you are breathing in a concept like I am love, or grace, or whatever concept. And you're breathing in through if you were doing chakras, or you're doing the heart space, or whatever. And I mean, wouldn't that be in terms of a friend of mine? Wouldn't that be a hoot?
I love it. And you picked two of my favorites, love and grace.
Yeah,
I can. It's like
Grace
I've
has
said
a nice sound to it. Grace. I mean, Grace is a word that
I always wanted one of my grandkids to be named Grace. It hasn't happened yet, but we're on Greats now, but it's still possible. it's my favorite name. It's my favorite concept, because grace is love in action.
It is, and grace is gracias. Grace is the root for gratitude. And then gratitude. I think of gratitude as being like a root tone for gratis, which is free. So it leads to freedom. So grace, thankfulness, appreciation. It's all sound tones.
It's all the same thing.
It's all petals of love. It's love in action. And it's
and I love the idea. I love the Celtics too, mainly because I was a tree hugger before tree hugger was a word.
Yeah, I know, me too.
And I'm always going to be a tree hugger because that concept that was in, what was the movie? Starts with a P. They just brought out a second one. I See You, where the tree of life was the center of the planet. Mm-hmm. And the thing I love about it is, and the Celtics do this. When you look at a Celtic tree, you never just see a trunk and branches. You always see roots too.
Oh yeah. And I used to practice talking to a tree overseas, knowing that if you talk to a tree overseas, if it has the same tree over here, that it communicates.
Yep. And it's
Avatar, Jeannie Salver.
Avatar. Yes, that was it. Avatar was the movie, and I love that. Thanks, Jeannie. I love that's my favorite quantum physics concept that you just brought up, and of course the Celtics had it way before.
Oh, that's right. Entanglement, huh? Entanglement.
Quantum entanglement. That's my favorite thing, because it's so unbelievably obvious to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest, most colossal cosmic duh there ever was.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still arguing about it. And I'm going,
give
it a rest.
Well,
things we have to discover. Let's go look at something that isn't obvious.
Well, people will always argue about things that, if they've invested a lot of energy, whether it's in the form of their own life force or money in a ology, in a paradigm, they don't want to be told that they're wrong, that they spent all that time, and
they're not wrong. They're just incomplete.
Yeah. It's just a different road, and it's led to maybe a new crossroad or a new way of looking at things. And
well, I mean, here's the thing.
It might work here, but it might not work on another planet, or work out somewhere else. But that doesn't mean
true. But this is what I'm living on, so this is what I'm going to focus on. And I'm thinking, this thought just popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
If they would willing to just give us, pretend for a minute,
mm-hmm.
that it's at least possible that the quantum entanglement that creates the instantaneous communication between all members of a species, trees in the Celtic version, if that's true, how could there ever be war? Because trees couldn't fight against their own roots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we'd be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming. I know it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you are at the forefront. I just love, I one of the blessings of my life is that I get to edit your curricula, because that means I see them before anybody else does.
I know you keep telling me, oh, I want to take this one and I want to take that one.
this one. Because you have a completely unfiltered perspective.
Well,
There is nothing that is outside the range of what can be done. And your students know that. And that's one of the reasons that you just fly. You just fly.
Well, when I look at something and someone wants to take something, I think, okay, so what is there? Because I look at each student and they want to explore something, and what I take a look at is they want to explore this, and I want to make sure that they won't get stuck in a single line, and can we expand that in a consciousness manner, and can we start then coupling it up with this, and then can we couple it up with this, and so it's like building an archway, and I was thinking an arc almost like a rainbow. I see this.
Well, you don't see anything as discrete, and that's what's wonderful.
Yeah, it's because
everything is connected to everything else, and your job as a coordinator and a creator of curriculum is to find the places where this thing that so and so wants to study is connected to that and that and that and that and that.
Yeah, it's like, take an example. If someone wants to do, they just want to do, let's say they're into music. Okay, so I say, okay, sound, okay, music. Well, then can we take them into vibration? Then can we take them into sound tones? Can we take them into, okay, in the beginning was the word. How was the universe created? Yeah. How does that relate to the sound tones in esoteric languages? How does that?
Because music is a language.
Yes. Right. And then you get to, music is a language. And then how does that get into acoustics? And how does that get into intervals? And then you get into dimensions, because dimensions of creation are frequency keyed. And then you can get into, well, how does chaos theory? And so there's just so much that, depending on what their interest is, and then each different cosmology has their own take on it, okay. So it's getting to open a doorway of aha. Okay. That's, it's like getting them to know there's more to a candy shop than just Hershey's chocolate. There's more than just milk chocolate and dark chocolate. There's caramel, and there's sea salt, and there's all these different
dark chocolate, caramel, sea salt.
Yeah. And so that's what I want. I want to be able to have them know that there's more than just what they always thought they wanted.
Well, I don't think you settle for that. I don't think you want them to just know that there's more than what they thought they wanted. I think you want them not to just know that there's more, but to be hungry for it.
Oh, absolutely.
To go chase after it.
Yeah, I've had one
that know that they're never going to catch all of it.
Yeah,
but somebody will come after them and get what they missed.
Well, I had one that thought that she thought that she knew what she wanted. Then after she decided that that's what she wanted, she didn't realize that she could change her mind. And I called her up and I said, you paid for units. You ordered all these classes, but you don't have to take those classes. You can change. And so look in the catalog, decide what you want, what sparks you. And see, that's what I'll ask, what sparks you? What makes you excited? What did someone tell you years ago that no, you can't do that. That's crazy. You never make any money. That's sort of so you put it aside because you had to do this and you had to do that. Well, okay. So what you're doing now might bring you, might pay the rent. And that's okay because the rent has to be paid. But that doesn't mean that you can't eat that candy bar at lunchtime, right? And so what sparks you? What makes you excited when you think about it? What did you put aside years ago thinking, and what have you dreamed about? And let's open that box. Let's open that golden chest and see what's in there. And it may not. I thought I was going to be an opera singer when I was younger. Well, no. Then I went into sound healing, and now what am I looking at? I'm looking at sound tones having to do with Aramaic. But what is it? It's all about vibration and how's the universe created. I never became an opera singer. And my God, I'm sure glad I didn't, because it was a narrow thing. But it led me places. The thought of sound and vibration and went into color and architecture and acoustics and little bits and bobs and pieces that ended up filling in areas that had to do with areas that I was, it kind of led me here, then it led me here, it led me here. And I didn't always know where I was going. And I eventually led that, people thought I was weird. Yeah. And that became that. And I gave myself a gold star for being weird. Yes, thank you. I took that as an honor thing. Yes, thank you. Weird. WEIRD, and I changed it to WYRD. It was okay to be weird. It's okay to be different, an outlier, because I wasn't following the herd and being the same. I wasn't as everybody else. Wasn't being, evened out. And let me have my rough corners. Okay. And meanwhile, and so follow that little bits. And if you come to a dead end, then that just means you need to turn left or right and go and find another dead end. And then you'll make another turn. And meanwhile, it's coming in full circle. And that's what life's all about. It's a creative circle. And then you spiral up and spiral up and spiral up. And where are you going? Where you going, I don't know. When you get there, I ain't certain. All I know is we are on our way. Got a string, boys, got a song. Paint that wagon and come along. And so do it, and fly. That's what we're here to do, is journey with you to help you fly. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's and if you beat your head up against the wall, then it shows you that wall's not the way to go, but that way may go, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
So what's the newest course that you have? What's the newest one you've done?
The newest one I've done is the Isaiah scroll, which having to do, it's an older book, but it was really neat because it talks about the prophecy of what they had done with the Isaiah scroll, which was one of those that they found. I'm not sure if it was if it was the Nag Hammadi or the Qumrans. It was one of those that they found whole and complete.
Nag Hammadi, wasn't it?
I think it was, and it was a Greg Braden book. The loss, but what was interesting is that it's related to prayer, quantum science, and prophecy, and it says that if you have in the old days you would have prophecy, and they would say the doom and gloom, and then you'd have other prophecies that said, oh, paradise is on the way, and how could you equate that? And then with quantum physics now, where you have, two streams of thought, and then it depends on when you make the decision, or you make the observation, but say you make the decision which way you're going to go, then that's makes the decision. Is it doom or gloom, or is it paradise? And so he talks about the decision points, that here you're walking parallel perhaps, and then you have choice points. So we have these energetic choice points, that come closer, and at those times, and you'll have different people say, okay, we're coming energetically, astrologically, you'll have all these people say, we're getting to these where you can feel the energies change and stuff, and we talk in New Thought about focusing on the higher consciousness, focusing on the high watch. So when you get to that tipping point, then it flips, what we call flipping the grid. And so he talks about that and how it relates to quantum physics with so you get into the some of the different theories, and so it relates. It's a good one for relating science to spirituality, and how it comes out in the Bible code and the Isaiah code. And so it's kind of an interesting one. And then, of course, the one I'm still working on is a Journal of Quaker Spirituality about reflections from the inner light. And then the one before the Isaiah scroll I did was on
I love that one. That one was so much fun.
Yeah, quantum physics about and it was about the like Heisenberg theory and so four of the theories of quantum physics that you hear and that you see about, and that talks about the in readable. I mean, I never
every day, run of the mill
every day, it talks about time dilation, and it talks about quantum field theory in easily understood, but you don't even have to worry about the formulas, though they have the formulas for people like you. But for people like me, I
enjoyed the formulas.
Nice formula. Oh, doesn't that look good? But the questions we ask is, how does this relate to prayer treatment? How does this relate to what New Thought says about this? So we're aligning quantum physics with what's out there in New Thought. So
and what I love about that is that, back in the Dark Ages, when the Pope said science is nasty and only prayer counts, they chopped off half of the world, for all intents and purposes. And quantum physics is hooking it back on again.
Yeah. Oh, and one other one, a new one that we've done is life lessons from the Japanese tea ceremony.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this was one of a Japanese lady who after 40 years of learning the Japanese tea ceremony with much resistance, finally it was her journey towards self-acceptance as she learned to appreciate the traditions and the slower pace.
That one's really wonderful too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And so we made a 1-unit class on that.
So what are you looking at? If you could just without having anybody give you any books or anything else, hey, Brock, if you could just say, okay, here's a class I'd really like to do. And I don't know if a book exists for it, or this is just something I'd really like to do. What would it be?
Something I'd really like to do. Well,
I've
gotten a couple of books from Lars Muhl, and I wanted to do one on the breath prayer, the Holy Spirit prayer, the divine healing method, using just the breath, where they use the breath and they use some of the phrases like Iana, Inanna, which is I am, and Rahma, which means love. So Inanna Rahma, and you can breathe it in through the heart and then breathe out. And so and they have that for each of the chakras. So I want to do eventually a class on going through the chakras with the breath, and using the phrasing for like shlama is for the solar plexus, in on a shlama, and breathing out, and it's I am peace. And
okay,
then
sign me up for that one.
Yeah, and see
but
what
you're
that
going to have sound with it.
Yeah, so each week you would be intoning and breathing this, into that part of the chakra, and then sending it out. You see, and then and then so you would do, it would probably be 8 weeks, because 8 or 9 weeks, because you'd go through the 7 chakras, and then you go through the whole thing. You see, and you would write about, well, how does it feel? Because the whole thing about prayer is not intellectual. I mean, it's nice to have an intellectual context. Don't get me wrong, because we have to ground it both. We have to ground it both, because it can't be all woo-woos, Otherwise, I mean, when I was first first on my journey, I had a teacher say that he saw me. All he saw was that my head, and the rest of me was out of body. So I was upside down with my head outside my body, and so the whole thing is to ground it in, so you know why. Why you're doing it, what it is, but then you need to feel it, so that, because by feeling it, then you can say, so that's what it's doing, and that's what it is. And then you can redo it. You see, you can replicate it. And then when you get it down, then you can pass it on. And it's in your energy field. You see, you're radiating that quality of the aspect of the divine. You have embodied it not only in your body, and you're embodying it in your cells, but it's radiating out through your energy field. And then that energy field expands, and it touches everybody else. And then it goes into what we call the true ministry, which is the gift of presence and being.
Oh boy, I can hardly wait.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you some questions that I ask everybody, starting with the most important one, and that is there anything that you'd like to talk to folks about today that I haven't asked you about?
I don't think so. I've been my brother likes me. I have motor mouth,
And everybody's listening as fast as they can listen. Okay, so the next one is, and I know what your answer is because I know you so much, but I want you to share it anyway. How does the work that you do with Emerson, and the work you do as a minister, and how you be, how does all of that assist, encourage, support conscious evolution on an individual level?
It's the ripple effect, isn't it? I always think that if I dropped the body, left the planet today, and I looked back, have I done what I could? Have I said yes to my soul's journey? It's not always easy. Sometimes people look at you and they think, oh, she has it easy. But, and they'll do that to probably a lot of our audience that have done the work, that have stepped through the mud, that have fallen on their faces and decided to say yes and pick themselves up, and gone into that barn and shoveled stuff, and because they were looking for that pony there, there's a pony in there somewhere. And but it's when you fall off the horse, you get back up on the horse, and you keep on keeping on, and you have to, if you and so many people just decide to stop, and that's okay. But when I'm a great believer that that some of us will be back, and perhaps I'll be back here on earth again. But I don't, there's a lot of things I don't want to do over again. So I spend a lot of time when something comes to mind, because as the light comes in, you'll see pictures in your head, or you'll remember old scenes, or you'll remember people that done you wrong, and those that you've done wrong. And that's the perfect time when it's in your consciousness to release, to do your forgiveness work, to let go. I do every day. I'm there saying, okay, God, I remember what this was, and I send love and blessings to the people. And I say, I understand what this was, and I give thanks for the lesson. And I say, okay, God, here it is. I send it back to what I call the altar for transformation. And I ask my divine team, help me send it back for transformation. I'm done with it. It's done. And
You don't just assist people. You don't just encourage them. You tell them how.
Yeah. And I try to tell them, give them the results of the lessons I've learned, and because I've been there, I've had my face in the dirt. So how do you, and some people say, yeah, and they'll, and don't listen, and others will listen, and that's okay. That's okay, but yeah, I try to put it in my lesson plan, in the lessons,
You do.
some of
You
the
do.
some of the exercises, and some of the things like, throwing things into the flame, or going into building the inner temple, trying to get them to focus on, just like when they do claims or affirmations, there's nothing that gives me that awful feeling when people do claims, or they do affirmations, or they do prayer work, and they're up here in their head, and so I say, send it down through the heart, because you send it, if you teach them to send it down through the heart, then it will actually go out on the heart chakra, go out on the love energy, and it'll do a couple things. It will actually, people will get it, because they will see it, they will grok it, they'll get it as sincere, but also it will start actually they'll start changing, because it will actually start their own cells vibrating faster, and things will come up for them to look at, and they'll have a choice. Will they let stuff go, or will they stuff it down and not look at it? And that's okay. Whatever, it's choice. Choice is an act of power, and if you choose not to do something about it, or you're not sure, it's always a choice for no, at least no for right now, but
That's a valid choice.
well, I have found out in my life that that fear will keep me from things. And so what I fear most is what I have to walk through. And sometimes I'll sit down and I'll feel like hyperventilating, because I say, what's the worst that can happen? What am I fearing? Because sometimes what we're fearing is just an old program that's in us, that the thought of something starts this program that's an energetic thing that starts happening, and it's not really, has nothing to do with what's come up for that's actually do you see what I'm saying? It's like you may be going out to an event, and all of a sudden you have this fear. Well, what is the fear? What is it really? And so I have to take a look at that. What is the fear? Why is it coming up? And I have to walk through that fear, because it's the fear that will keep me from my highest divine potential, and will actually keep me from being more powerful. And what's the power? The power is the light that's within you from being more fully revealed, your authentic self that wants to be revealed and be more of service to the world. That's what you're here to do, to be the best you can be.
So here's the next question, and you've probably only need to say, well, weren't you listening? But same question, but instead of conscious evolution, we're talking about world peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and world peace. A lot of times, I know I've mentioned this before to you, but I had someone I worked with years ago that said she worked for the government. She wanted to get out of the industrial complex and fight for peace. And I'm there saying, the energy of fighting is still war. Fighting within oneself is war. if you don't have peace within yourself, you're going to outpicture that energy is going to actually activate war, whether it's resentment, anger. It contributes to the chaos, to the chaotic energy that contributes to the war, and on any level of dimensional consciousness. And so it's teaching people to not only, first it starts here in my own self. Can I be a point of peace? And can I, wherever I go, can I take that consciousness with me? And then through my classes and whether it's curriculum or through my teachings, can I teach others to do that too? Whether it's breath, in the moment, can we be mindful of the breath and just breathe and relax relax the abdomen. It's like, can you breathe like a baby? Just relax your belly and breathe. Don't hold your tummy in like we're taught to, so we look thinner. Can you just let, get those elastic jeans and let your belly breathe, Can you breathe? And then can you just be peace within? And that by physics, it builds on itself. It builds on itself. Whereas also the other too, if you have anger, then it will connect to anger in anybody else's energy field, and pretty soon you're building a standing wave of vibration. It's resonance. The law of resonance is alive and well. So do you want to build a standing wave of peace, or do you want to do of not peace? So, it's, if you notice that when the Dalai Lama goes somewhere, the energetics change because he becomes a point of peace. So can you do that? And it starts with each person, and it's being, I be peace, and inanna shlama.
Yeah. Okay, here's the one most people get the biggest kick out of. Presuming that every single thing goes exactly the way you want it to go. Mm-hmm. Every little detail, every experience, every relationship, every event goes exactly the way you want it to go. 10 years from now, what does Reverend Dr. Missy and her ministry look like?
Oh, God. 10 years from now, huh? I don't know. Because if I decided what it was going to look like, then I've locked it in place. It's if every day or every week I'm there saying that I am now aligning with my highest divine potential, then as I clear out more, then my true north, or my compass point, changes into more of what of what I'm here to do. Do you see? And so I have no idea, and it's not my business to know. Because it will be greater and more marvelous than what I can imagine now. Because 10 years ago, I would have not known that I'm doing what I am doing now, which is greater than I could imagine. I thought I would be a brick and mortar minister, but what I'm doing now is greater than what I, than if I had been doing, if I had gone in and just and been a minister, which would have been great in itself, but in my own way of doing, my mind, I don't think my mind could have expanded, and my consciousness could have expanded in the same way. I would have had impact in a different manner. But this, to me, is much greater than I could have ever imagined. And so I don't want to put a lock and key on it.
I'll take it. I like it.
I'm going to keep it open at the top. And thank God for all our ministers out there, by the way, that have decided to be brick and mortar, because my job is to give them opportunities to be open at the top. And see, without them, I can't do my door opening for them. And we all work together. And so I think that's pretty cool that we're a great big team together. And we have a lot of affiliates out there, which is what makes Emerson able to be what it is.
Yep. Okay, last question. Will you come back?
Yeah, sure.
The first opening I have is New Year's Eve.
Oh, how wonderful, because I never go out on New Year's Eve. I stay home by the fireplace, cup of tea.
We'll stay home together on New Year's Eve. I'll send you a reminder.
Okay.
And next week, I want everyone to know the guest who's coming next week is a very interesting young man from here in Kansas City. His name is Elijah Dormius, and he is the founder and CEO of the I Am Foundation, which is a 501c3 that works with young people of color, and in remarkable new ways. So I'm really looking forward. I signed him up last February because I wanted to be sure I got him. So don't miss it, because it's going to be great and you'll love it. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe.